Let's now talk about identity work in educational settings. Educational settings are very important situations in which people construct or reconstruct and also enact their identity. Therefore, especially in relation to learning a second language, this topic of identity is very important. People not only face a problem regarding their identity in relation to learning learning a second language in their own context, but seeking an identity in an L2 while studying in a foreign context among natives. This construction or enactment of identity may also be a problem because of the cultural backgrounds or cultural, religious, or local associations of the people. People may still resist to the construction of new identities, or they might find problems in other ways to construct a new identity because of their socio-cultural background. So therefore, it becomes a very interesting topic for language learners, educators, teachers, and various policymakers in relation to second language learning and teaching. The word identity does not commonly come into media talk, yet it is clearly part of many learners' identities in various socio-cultural and educational settings. Especially in populations such as people studying in international or non-native speakers as residents in various developed countries, for example, USA and UK or Australia or other countries. Particularly if the language they are seeking to learn or the culture they are seeking to adopt is of higher status as compared to their own, the problems become multifold. Their desire to become part of that foreign culture and their belonging to a particular culture, sometimes they are entangled in a kind of conflict that to which culture or identity they should belong to or they should enact. Therefore, such confusion might generate certain ambivalent attitudes among learners. For example, in one of the studies conducted in a Pakistani setting, we came to the conclusion that Pakistani learners of English are confused, or in other words, they have ambivalent attitudes toward English and its learning. Because on one side they considered English as a kind of colonial asset, which reminds them of their deprivations in the past. On the other hand, they think this language as a language of moderation, as a language which can be an asset or a currency to move forward in their future careers. So therefore, such ambivalent attitudes have a strong bearing on not only on Pakistani learners' identities, but the people learning English language in various L2 contexts, as well as in various L1 contexts. In this regard, we can see that Talmud Study is also an important study which tells us about the relevance of identity studies for language educators, and it talks about the various issues identity issues which people confronted in the environment of an ESL setting at a certain place. But these problems, if you read closely, you will find that these problems are not restricted to that particular place where Talmi conducted the study. Rather, they are quite generalizable to other L2 contexts also. Similarly, we have Maynard and Warrix Teddy, and that states that the resistance to learning dwells when educational systems fail to take into account learners' identity. So we see even in local settings as well as in foreign settings, people may develop certain resistance to learning, and they may not become proficient or excellent learners if their culture and identity is not kept into account by the syllabus designers or by the teachers. Such a study in a Pakistani context by a very renowned applied linguist, Sabiha Mansoor, also informs us that such a cultural difference might develop some kind of isolation among the learners of English in some Pakistani context. The issue of identity is not limited to the minority groups in certain countries like USA, UK, who are seeking their career or educational advancement. Rather, it is spread over all L2 context, including the native and non-native context. The accommodation to local pragmatic norms may be an important aspect of their repertoire of linguistic skills. People, when they're studying in a native context, they would like to develop some pragmatic values of the natives, but lack of these pragmatic norms or the knowledge of these norms might make them confront certain problems, communicative problems. The desire to belong to the right group is another problem which might occur in relation to identity, that people may be unsure at various stages of their educational or cultural development that which is the right group they want to belong to, their local home group or the group they are studying with now, or any other group. So these are some of the issues which could confront problems to L2 learners in various educational settings. Language educators can facilitate their learners by asking them to develop not only linguistic but pragmatic competence, and this might reduce the problems faced by the learners. And in this regard, they can go beyond the regular curriculum and include some of the activities or some of the talks which might facilitate their students. Online exchanges can be helpful in this regard. Moreover, teachers may function as role models and encourage students about the activities outside the classroom, which could help them to foster the right identities for themselves. And such contribution of the teachers or educators can actually contribute to the ongoing identity construction of the students. Therefore, we need to understand that the identity construction, especially in relation to second language learning, is very important in various educational settings. So that L2 educators throughout the world should understand, as language is a carrier of culture also, they should understand that they need to keep in mind the cultural and identity needs of their students.